Hey guys, it's Whitney from Thanks for the Food, and today's recipe is how to make homemade mayonnaise. Now, somebody on the Facebook page requested my spicy mayo recipe, and I told them that I would pass it on. So I just thought I'd do a tutorial to show, or do a recipe to show how I make mayonnaise from scratch. Now, most of you know I'm pretty budget conscientious here in Norway, because if you're not careful, you can end up spending a lot of money on food. So to kind of keep my costs down, one thing that I always make from scratch is mayonnaise. And it sounds really difficult, especially if you're used to only buying mayonnaise in the tubes or in the jars in the stores. But it's pretty inexpensive. And since you can make your own using the ingredients that you like, you get to play with the flavors a little bit more. So I'll put all the recipe or all the ingredients down in the comment box below, so you have the recipe, and I'll also post the recipe on the blog. But what you're basically going to need is 1 egg, and then you'll need what I call the seasoning mix, which is basically dry mustard, sugar, salt, and if you want, just a dash of cayenne pepper. I usually leave mine out because I like a little bit more of a neutral flavor, but a dash of cayenne pepper if you want it, and then vinegar and oil. Now, the good thing with making mayonnaise is that mayonnaise is usually used as a base for other things like aioli, but also with the vinegar and oil combinations, you can really change up the different flavors. So if you want to, I use a neutral oil, which is usually canola oil. In Norway, it's called rapeseed oil. It still sounds really funny to say that. But anyways, I usually use canola oil because it's neutral and it doesn't have any other flavors in it. But you can also use olive oil, or you can use a blend of canola and olive oil, or you can also bring in a couple of tablespoons of walnut oil or pumpkin oil, or I've also used macadamia nut oil and peanut oil. You can kind of mix up the oils to suit your flavor palette. And also with the vinegar, you can really play around and use white wine vinegar, champagne vinegar, red wine vinegar. You can use just plain white vinegar, or as they call it in Norway, brown vinegar. You can use, different vinegars to suit your taste. You can also use raspberry vinegar. So you've got some other flavor combinations in there that you can use. So mix up the oils and the vinegars as you see fit. But let's get started. So the first thing that you want to do is just add, this is just 1 egg. And another thing that you can do to kind of switch up the flavors is I use 1 whole egg, but you can use 2 egg yolks instead of using a whole egg. Also, you can use 2 egg whites if you want to kind of cut the cholesterol down, or if you'd like a lighter mayonnaise. I usually use 1 whole egg or 2 egg yolks, and using 2 egg yolks is really rich, but of course it's got a lot of flavor to it. So choose what you like or mix it up. Then we're going to add the seasoning mix, which again is the mustard, the sugar, and the salt, with no cayenne pepper, but you can also add that if you want. And then I'm going to add all of the vinegar, and for this I basically just use white wine vinegar. So I add that. And then the next thing that I'm going to add is some of the salad oil, or some of our neutral oil. And you only want to add 1/4 of the oil that you have, because you want to basically start the emulsion. And that's all mayonnaise basically is. It's just an emulsion of oil and egg and vinegar with some seasonings in it. So I'm just going to add 1/4 of the amount of oil that we use for the recipe. So there's that. And then I'm basically going to just turn on my blender and get this mixed, and then I'll drizzle in the rest of the oil until this basically thickens up. And when this thickens up, just kind of, when you're making this at home, just make sure that you pay attention or listen to your blender. It'll be talking to you. But just listen to your blender, because once it switches over from being more of a liquid into being mayonnaise, and it's emulsified and it's getting thick, you'll hear a complete difference in the sound. So I'll start this up, and then as we get going, I will drizzle in in more of the oil, and then hopefully I have this kind of set up right so you can see right in there and see how I'm doing this. Okay, so let's get started here. All right, so now we have our mayonnaise, and I hope you guys could hear when it switched over. It sounds really smooth, and then all of a sudden it sounds like it's almost choking. But what we end up with is this is the finished product, and let me get a bowl out so you can just see what this looks like. The finished product. Like I said, this is my preferred way to make mayonnaise, and it's the only way I've made it. I've tried to make this in the KitchenAid standing mixer, and I wasn't able to pull it off, but that doesn't mean much because I'm not that super great at using the KitchenAid just yet, so I'm still working on it. Anyways, so let's just see what this looks like, and you can see. I forgot to mention earlier that you can also use lemon juice or other citrus juices. Lemon is usually the best because it's the most acidic, but I've also used a mix of lemon and lime for different recipes. So if you don't want to use vinegar, or if you just want something else, and also keep in mind that different things with acidic properties, so different vinegars have different flavors, and so do different citrus fruits. But that's just another way that you can kind of customize this recipe to your liking. So this is the finished product, and the great thing about making mayonnaise at home, this is the finished product. The great thing about making mayonnaise at home is that you can basically customize this by doing different mix-ins. So one thing that I've done is just mix in 2 teaspoons of wasabi paste, and that's been really good. My favorite mix-in, though, is using either curry powder or using smoked paprika powder, or using a combination. You can also mince garlic in with the seasoning mix, and then you've got aioli. You can also do garlic powder. You can do taco seasoning. There's all different kinds of mix-ins that you can put into mayonnaise to give it more flavor, or just add different flavors. I'll just try to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit more like the texture. This is just really creamy, and it's my favorite way to make mayonnaise. So that's my recipe for making mayonnaise. If you have any questions, or you want to know more of what I'm cooking or what I'm doing, or if you want to see some of my other tips and tricks, I did a video on my way to mince garlic with a microplane, which has been one of the tips that's just changed my cooking, because I am not a big fan of chopping, of standing in the kitchen and chopping stuff. So grating garlic on a microplane is really great. And also when you grate it on a microplane, it comes out more like a paste, and that's also a really great mix-in for this mayo. But if you want to see any of my other tips and tricks, be sure to leave me a comment. If you like the video, then like it, give me a thumbs up. And you can always find me here on YouTube. You can also find me on my blog, which is thanksforthefood@blogspot.com. I'm also on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm also on Pinterest, and I'm also on SlideShare now. So if you have any comments or questions or anything you want to see, be sure to let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.